Welcome to the Uncanny Valley podcast. You know that feeling, right? That little flicker when something should be familiar, maybe even comforting, but it just feels, well, off. A little too perfect, maybe. Or a promise that sounds way too good to be true. That's the Uncanny Valley. And it feels like it's everywhere these days, hiding right out in the open. Today we're going to explore that feeling. We're looking at it through the lens of some really fascinating source material we're calling the Labyrinth. It's this unflinching look at these organizations, these individuals who operate in those kinds of shadowed spaces. They really blur the lines between the everyday and the monstrous, revealing horrors that aren't fantasy, but like reflections of ourselves, just twisted. What's really compelling about the Labyrinth stuff is it's not just escapism, not some fantasy world. It really holds up this chilling mirror to anxieties lots of us feel. You know, information overload, society feeling fragmented, not trusting institutions anymore. Take these real world problems, internet trolls, powerful elites hiding stuff, extremist groups, and it sort of twists them, makes them way more insidious, more uncanny. So if you've ever felt like something in our world is just a little askew, maybe a shade too perfect, or that promise felt hollow, then yeah, this is definitely for you.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how the creators of this material managed to just strip away that comfort of the familiar. They show us this sometimes. The real monsters, they aren't from some other dimension. They're born right here, from our own society. We're not just talking mythical creatures here, not the source material anyway. It's more about how everyday things we rely on, things meant to help us, even our best intentions, when they get pushed to the extreme or just subtly corrupted, they can become deeply, deeply horrific. The source material has this unique way of blending classic Lovecraftian ideas with like modern day action and intrigue. It doesn't just throw ancient evils at you. It puts them in today's world, makes them feel relatable almost, which makes the horror feel, well, imminent. Like it could be happening next door.
Absolutely. Imminent is the right word. And that's exactly what we're here to unpack today. We're going to look into how this material shows the dark side of things we usually think are just, good, pure benefits. We'll follow this unsettling path, see what happens when good intentions really do pave the way to harm, when life itself, or faith, gets corrupted into something unrecognizable, and when our search for healing, for connection, opens doors to, well, terrifying new realities. And finally, how loneliness, even deceit, can be weaponized in really personal ways. It's a journey, all right. Right into the heart of the uncanny, where the familiar gets terrifying fast. Okay, so let's start with a theme that's, well, it's profoundly unsettling. We're talking about organizations that start out with really noble goals, or they're trying to address genuine, desperate needs, things we all recognize, but then through maybe manipulation or just internal flaws, or maybe the sheer weight of what they're dealing with, these groups get distorted, sometimes even weaponized, in ways that are just deeply disturbing, dangerous. Our first example is the Center for the Missing Child, the CMC. Now, this organization, it was founded back in 1981 by Jordan and Sarah D'Onofrio. It was after their own daughter, Anna, was abducted and murdered. Horrifically, her remains weren't found for 15 years.
Just unimaginable.
Right, and the D'Onofrios were just appalled by how primitive missing child investigations were back then. Like, no cooperation between agencies, inconsistent procedures, everything was agonizingly slow.
Yeah, a nightmare on top of a nightmare.
Exactly. So, driven by that personal tragedy and this fierce determination, they poured their own money into starting the CMC. They recruited retired law enforcement, people who knew the ropes. Their mission was crystal clear: improve how these cases are handled. And honestly, they were incredibly successful. The CMC grew huge, became this major nonprofit, like $40 million budget, 400 staff, 700 volunteers.
Wow, that's significant reach.
Totally. They built strong ties with law enforcement everywhere, developed serious tech expertise, cybercrime, digital forensics. They even work with tech companies to fight online child exploitation. So on the surface, absolutely a force for good, undeniable. But within the source material, we meet someone who really shows the cost of fighting these horrors. Joe DeWant. DeWant is presented as this meticulous cold case specialist, an ex-cop. But his backstory is, well, it's tragic. He got forced into retirement after uncovering corruption related to the Atlanta child murders, late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, right. That infamous case.
Yeah. DeWant, driven by this obsessive need for justice, especially for kids, he'd built this solid case. He suspected 4 white officers, 2 with KKK ties, were involved in some deaths, but his superiors, they just buried it, ignored his evidence. And then they forced him out with some fake medical diagnosis. Macular degeneration, they said.
That's brutal. Betrayal by the system he served.
Exactly. So this guy, already scarred, right? He gets pulled, reluctantly, into these Delta Green cases. investigations into what the source calls the unnatural. For listeners maybe not familiar, Delta Green is this secret group in the lore fighting cosmic horrors, usually at great personal cost. So, as DeWant gets deeper into these unnatural cases, the exposure to these profound horrors, it starts his disintegration. That's the word the source uses. It's like this slow erosion of his sanity, his moral compass. He becomes completely obsessed with the unnatural, starts seeing it everywhere, even in his old cases. He starts thinking those corrupt cops he exposed, maybe they were involved in something darker, not human.
Oh, wow. That's a dangerous path.
Totally. And this obsession, fueled by the sheer horror he's witnessing, it leads to him being falsely implicated in a child murder. His DNA is planted at the scene. Meticulously, he becomes the victim, framed, left to rot. His life, his reputation just destroyed.
It's the very thing he fought against.
Yeah. His own meticulous nature, his strength, becomes his downfall as he spirals into paranoia.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, DeWant's story raises this really critical, unsettling question, doesn't it? When you dedicate your life, everything you have, to fighting unimaginable evil, at what point does that darkness just start to consume you? You know, at what point do you get corrupted by the very horror you're trying to stop?
Yeah.
DeWant started with such a clear sense of right and wrong, this, like you said, almost pathological need for justice. But the sheer weight of the unnatural, plus his past trauma, that betrayal, just slowly eats away at him, leads to his complete unraveling. And his framing, it's not just tragic, it's like the ultimate weaponization of his commitment. A stark example of how fighting a hidden enemy can leave even the most righteous person utterly broken. The cost is way more than just physical harm. It's that uncanny feeling, right? The hero fights the monster and slowly becomes something else, something unrecognizable.
That is a chilling thought. Really chilling. Okay, so from the CMC, let's shift to another organization. Also started with good intentions, but deeply compromised. The Witness Alliance. So this nonprofit, their stated mission is all about tracking hate groups in America, cataloging them, monitoring, publicizing them to weaken them, educating law enforcement, working with academics, trying to understand and fight extremism.
Seems vital, especially today.
Absolutely. Their history goes back to Lucas Allen in 1964. And now they're heavily focused on the online world, tracking disinformation, extremist talk online. But the source material points out some really troubling internal issues. Even in a group fighting hate, some volunteers apparently file false or greatly exaggerated reports on their enemies for political gain.
Ah, so using the mission for personal vendettas.
Exactly. Weaponizing the noble cause for their own, sometimes petty, agendas. It's subtle, but really corrosive corruption from within. And the narrative introduces Cheryl Krieger. She's a researcher for the Alliance, but she's also described as Delta Green friendly, meaning she knows about the unnatural, but her exposure was limited. She had this near-miss encounter with an avatar of Nyarlathotep.
Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos.
Yeah.
Not exactly a minor encounter.
Right, one of the big outer gods, deceptive, shape-shifting cosmic horror. But instead of breaking her or getting her recruited into Delta Green, it radicalized her against Delta Green.
Against them? Why?
She blames them for the mental breakdown of this Dr. Jeffrey G. Hawthorne V. She thinks Delta Green's methods, the horrors they expose people to, are actually worse than the cosmic threats themselves.
It's quite a take.
Yeah. So in her, twisted crusade, she uses this volunteer, Telford Giverney, who's described as angry, impressionable, prone to making stuff up for the greater good. Anyway, she uses him as a patsy. Uses him in her schemes against Delta Green agents, potentially putting them in danger, undermining what they do.
So the anti-hate group is being used to target the people fighting cosmic horrors.
Yeah.
That's layered.
Exactly. And speaking of Dr. Hawthorne, his story is just tragic. He was a Delta Green agent, brilliant psychologist, old money family, seems totally stable, accomplished, but his experiences with the unnatural, they drove him to a severe nervous breakdown, left him dangerously unstable.
That cost again.
Right. He still consults for one faction of Delta Green, giving psychological insights, but his methods now, they're fueled by this personal crusade against cults he thinks might pose unnatural threats. This mission makes him reckless. He collects dangerous artifacts, documents from cults. He even accidentally stepped into this extra-dimensional nightmare mansion, place of pure cosmic terror. Yeah. His mental state, the source mentions severe depersonalization disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, chronic PTSD makes him a walking time bomb. His actions put the Witness Alliance, innocent people, constantly at risk. He embodies that terrible unpayable cost of fighting the unseen. So here's where it gets really unsettling, right? Even an organization fighting hate, something we all agree is good, can be used for shady purposes by its own people. Or Its champions, the ones fighting hardest, can be broken and twisted by the fight itself.
It's like you said earlier, fighting fire by starting another fire, and that new fire just consumes the firefighters from the inside.
Exactly. It shows how even righteous causes, when touched by human flaws, ego, or these unseen forces, can get profoundly corrupted. It's deeply uncanny. Okay, so these first groups show how a moral mission can erode, become dangerous. But what about groups that twist fundamental human desires, beliefs, turning them into something alien, monstrous, right? Let's go deeper now. And to have these really fundamental human desires, wanting a family, wanting health, needing faith, spiritual meaning, how those get twisted into something truly alien, monstrous. It's like the ultimate perversion of just being human, pushing us way into that uncanny valley. Our next focus is new life fertility. Now, this starts out seeming, well, benign, even helpful. An IVF practice founded by Noreen McDougall and Rudella Dasinger. McDougall initially wanted a natural approach to fertility, but her backstory is deeply unsettling.
How so?
The source says McDougall went missing once, for 2 weeks. After going into this grotto on an island in the Severn River, inside she drank from this pool. It contains something called lac maternum, described as warm, white, unholy fluid.
Lac maternum. Mother's milk. But unholy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this experience, it wasn't just a weird trip. It gave her a cosmic vision and this overwhelming alien new passion for life, and it led to her getting pregnant.
Pregnant from the grotto water.
Seems like it. The child she named Capris, the source calls it a Hydas nigritia.
Hydas nigritia. Offspring of Shub-Niggurath, the black goat of the woods.
That's the one. Primal cosmic horror, fertility gone monstrous, and Capris, the text says, was in no way human, had trampling hooves and crushing tentacles.
Good Lord.
And this encounter, this birth, that's what marked the real start of New Life Fertility's change. From a clinic to something much bigger, much scarier. A global breeding program for a new species.
Wow. Okay. So the IVF practice is a front, or evolved into this.
Seems like it evolved, driven by what the source calls unnatural selection. See, the babies produced by New Life, they look healthy, strong, but they're actually genetic chimeras?
Chimeras meaning mixed genetics.
Exactly. The source says they're sterile with humans, can't reproduce with us, but they are frighteningly fertile with each other.
Oh, okay. Creating a separate breeding population.
Precisely. And as these New Life kids grow up, they develop this weird cosmic resonance and, even more disturbing, incestuous urges toward their siblings.
Oh, it's inventive.
Things like it. An inherent reproductive drive in their DNA, compelling them to mate within their own kind. And the Dasinger kids, Mary and James, they run the show now. Mary handles the political side, uses this huge network of shell companies, foundations like $10 million budget for subtle lobbying globally.
Lobbying for what?
Quietly opposing reproductive choice laws, pouring money into making STDs easily treatable in developing countries, while also running campaigns to suppress condom usage.
Wait, treat STDs easily, but discourage condoms. Why?
To accelerate birth rates. If people aren't worried about STDs and aren't using condoms, more pregnancies.
Creating fertile ground, literally, for their new species to spread, unseen.
Exactly. In some places they target, birth rates are apparently starting to spike as condom use drops. Meanwhile, James manages the day-to-day stuff, indoctrinating the New Life offspring, preparing them for the breeding programs, shaping them into unwitting tools for this cosmic agenda.
This raises a really profound question, doesn't it? About the boundaries of humanity, progress. When the desire for life, for family, gets hijacked like this, twisted to create a fundamentally different, almost alien species. What are the ethics? What does it even mean for our definition of human? New Life Fertility forces us to think about how something seemingly good solving infertility could have these deeply unsettling consequences, especially when driven by some non-human cosmic plan. It's not just a cult, it's like the subtle biological takeover from within, slowly changing the genetic landscape, eroding our idea of our own species. That's profoundly uncanny.
So pulling back, we're talking about a fertility clinic, started from a human need, but a cosmic encounter turned it into this global cult, serving an entity of primal life, subtly altering human evolution from inside. It's terrifying. The idea that human reproduction itself could be hijacked for some monstrous alien goal, all while looking totally benevolent. Okay. Next up, the Sowers. This is a fundamentalist Christian sect, found mostly in dying Rust Belt towns in America, places hit hard by economic decline, feeling forgotten. The Sowers come in preaching self-reliance, community, strong faith, offering hope, belonging.
Filling a vacuum, basically.
Exactly. But beneath that comforting surface, piety, hard work, there's a really disturbing secret, a dark twist on their faith. Their founder, Mark Brand, this charismatic guy, he gained his power by repeatedly performing this ritual sacrifice of his Azazel. Described in the source as an eternal angel, he binds and kills this entity.
Kills an angel. Why?
To gain something they call metaphysical innocence.
Metaphysical innocence. Okay, what does that mean in this context?
It's like this spiritual state they achieve through this ritual violence. In their warped belief system, it grants them total immunity from consequences in God's eyes. And horrifyingly, it lets them commit crimes with impunity because they believe they're cleansed. Blessed.
So, ritual murder gives them a get-out-of-jail-free card, spiritually speaking, and maybe literally.
Pretty much. And the effects of this perversion of faith, are horrifying. Especially for the wives in the group. Take Jessie Brand, Mark's own wife. The source says she, like other wives, becomes a thrall to her husband, experiencing frequent emotional breakdowns, complete collapses.
Why? What's happening to them?
It's not just psychological. It's linked to this daily ritual they perform called the Bound to Jesus ritual. Sounds simple, but it insidiously drains their willpower, their vitality, leaves them perpetually weak, subservient, mentally vulnerable.
Drained by a ritual.
And worse, if a wife helping with this ritual is pregnant, each time they do it, there's a significant risk of miscarriage, often fatal for the fetus.
Oh my God.
And the wives, they're taught to endure these miscarriages, rationalize them through their twisted faith. They call it making angels, sending souls straight to heaven, monstrously manipulative. It's a community built on hidden suffering, systematic abuse, spiritual manipulation, all disguised as piety, divine blessing, turning the sacred into something utterly profane, uncanny. Just imagine that. A community built on faith, hard work, support, but underneath, fueled by a ritual perversion that actively harms the innocent, enables leaders to commit horrific acts, and they all believe they're blessed. It's chilling how belief, when twisted, becomes a weapon against the very people it claims to protect, pushing them into this inescapable, horrifying reality. So, we've seen perverted life, perverted faith. Let's move on now to how our desperate searches for healing, for connection, can get similarly warped, turned into pathways to corruption, mental devastation. Okay, let's explore now how those fundamental human needs for healing, for real connection, things that give us strength, purpose, how they can, paradoxically, become pathways. Pathways to deep corruption, mental instability, alienation. This part of the Labyrinth shows how even our best intentions can be just catastrophically exploited. Take the Pronosodality. This group presents itself as this really benevolent New Age nonprofit, offering supposedly miraculous healing energy treatments. They operate from this remote compound in Washington state. It's an old Catholic monastery, but it's in this notoriously toxic town called Stanton.
Stanton? Sounds ominous already.
Right. The source describes it as a place literally sickened by a century of industrial pollution, violence, just crushing despair. A land where hope goes to die.
So a perfect setting for something weird to take root.
Exactly. Makes it fertile ground for the influence we're about to get into. At the heart of the Sodality's operation is something called the polarity vortex. It's housed in an old, repurposed ICBM silo. Very Cold War chic.
An ICBM silo.
Okay.
What does this vortex do?
Well, it seems to deliver on the healing promise. Purifies the body, shrinks tumors, even reverses cancer sometimes.
Sounds amazing. What's the catch? There's always a catch.
The catch is huge. While it's healing the body, the vortex channels the energies of the Loigor.
Loigor.
Okay.
Refresh my memory. Lovecraftian.
Yep. Ancient, vast, alien intelligences, often depicted as these ethereal, wind-like beings. They exert this subtle but profound influence over human minds.
Ah, mind influence. That's never good.
Never. And the consequence here. The beneficiaries, while getting physically healed, are driven into developing severe antisocial personality disorders.
Antisocial. Like
Yeah.
sociopathy.
Pretty much. The effects are chillingly consistent, devastating. Arten Brandt, the charismatic cult leader, he became actively, indiscriminately cruel, takes sadistic pleasure in hurting people, asserting dominance. Others who get treated follow similar paths. Kathleen Jorgensen used to be a normal executive. Now she's ruthlessly plotting to murder her boss to get ahead.
Wow.
Or Jamil Maleh, senior guy at Columbia National Lab, seemingly respectable, after exposure, becomes this petty tyrant at home, constantly ridiculing his wife, his daughters, zero empathy.
So the healing comes at the cost of your humanity, basically.
Seems that way. And Stanton itself, with its history of pollution and violence, it acts like an amplifier. a perfect crucible for the Loigor's insidious influence. Plus, there are these things called shimmers, visible only to cracked agents, Delta Green Ops whose sanity is frayed.
Shimmers, what are they?
Like physical manifestations of past violence. Lingering Loigor energy. They haunt the town's most tragic spots. A permanent record of suffering.
What's really fascinating here, I think, is how this material uses that whole wellness and healing concept, something so positive, uses it to mask this much deeper, much more insidious corruption.
Yeah.
It powerfully shows how even chasing health, when you stumble onto these unknown, malevolent cosmic forces like the Loigor, it can lead to this kind of spiritual, moral, psychological sickness. The Loigor, as they're depicted, they aren't even necessarily malicious in a human sense. Their influence is more like this slow, vast wave, just subtly twisting human minds over ages.
Agree.
It really forces you to question the cost of unchecked power, right? Even power that seems to offer a miracle cure. And how easily our hope for betterment can lead us into something truly monstrous, deeply uncanny.
That's a profound point. That search for well-being leading to moral sickness. Okay, so from physical healing, let's pivot to the search for mental, emotional connection and how that gets worked. Enter the Dream Syndicate. This is an online group. Teenagers, young adults, they all share these recurring, unsettling dreams. And these aren't just bad dreams. They're described as being of supernatural origin.
Supernatural dreams.
Yangs, unrelated to life experience, fragmentary and confusing. But multiple, unconnected people are having them all over the world. So they form this online community around these shared, bizarre experiences, trying to piece together fragments, symbols, narratives, understand what they call the core scenarios.
Core scenarios.
Yeah.
Theories about the dreams.
Exactly. They've got a few. Emo radio idea that strong emotions are transmitting through time. Hive mind, maybe the dreamers are human mutations, mentally linked worldwide. Overlords, maybe external entities, aliens perhaps, are deliberately spreading the dreams for who knows why. And Inception Matrix, the idea they might actually be living in a dream reality, seeing glitches.
Whoa. Heavy stuff for an online forum.
Totally. Giovanna Pawar, she's the founder, very analytical. She has these disturbing, repetitive dreams about Flight 370 crashing, a real tragedy twisted into this recurring nightmare. But here's the chilling twist. Santino Vega.
Oh, who's he?
Described as an arrogant, manipulative, and egotistical bully.
Yeah.
And he is obsessively fixated on Pawar. He secretly compromised all her online accounts, got her personal info, reads her messages. He actively stalks her.
That's terrifying. Stalking within the dream group.
Worse, he uses the Dream Syndicate itself, not for understanding, but for his personal obsession with Pawar. He manipulates the group dynamics, actively tries to undermine natural leaders, and will manipulate anyone who is kind to him. He completely perverts the whole idea of shared understanding, support, connection that the group was built on.
So a safe space turned into a predator's hunting ground.
Exactly. A seemingly innocuous online community meant for support becomes a stage for this obsessive stalker and hacker. Santino Vega twists the very idea of shared understanding into a tool for his malice, made even creepier by the uncanny nature of the dreams themselves. It just shows how easily digital spaces, meant for connection, can be weaponized for really personal, disturbing ends, especially with the touch of the unnatural mixed in. Okay, so when connection gets twisted and healing corrupts, what happens when isolation itself becomes the weapon, turning vulnerability into pure horror? Right, now we get into what might be the most intimate, personally terrifying stuff in the Labyrinth. We're talking radicalized individuals, spies walking among us, where loneliness, deceit, they aren't just sad situations, they're actively weaponized, pushing people into these uncanny shadows within their own minds. Let's look at the lonely. These are individuals described as unnaturally alone. Each one gets this mysterious, unique book. It seems to just manifest specifically for them.
A personalized book of misery.
Pretty much. It's not something you find in a shop. It's like this living document of their isolation, chronicling, reinforcing their personal path of misery, regret, failure, tailored to each reader.
Wow, that's insidious.
Totally. It's this slow slide into deep alienation. And from that initial state, just being lonely, some progress to become grim. These are people like Bo Lau, this comic book creator who feels totally dismissed. Or Zara Gibbs, a resentful former debutante. Her fancy life became a prison of bitterness.
So the resentment builds.
Exactly. These grim individuals become active stalkers. consumed by bitterness, meticulously targeting people they think tormented them, online, in real life, finding creative ways to oppress, torment them, and then a terrifying few of the grim go even further. They become furious.
Furious, meaning?
Mass murderers, like Catherine Armbruster in The Source, utterly convinced they're fighting some vast, unseen conspiracy, mailing bombs, plotting extreme violence, driven by this profound, warped sense of injustice.
From lonely to stalker to mass murderer. That's a terrifying progression. Who's pushing them?
There's an online recruiter, known only as CPT Sunshine, Captain Sunshine.
Captain Sunshine. Sounds friendly. Probably isn't.
Definitely not. This figure is revealed as an avatar of the King in Yellow.
The King in Yellow. From Chambers, Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Associated with madness, decadence, that play.
That's the one. CPN Sunshine meticulously pushes them towards the deeper levels of misery through online posts that are time-stamped. Get this. 25 years in the future.
25 years in the future. How?
Unclear. Temporal manipulation. Some kind of cosmic awareness. It's deeply weird. And CPTN Sunshine has this philosophy. Happiness for one creates misery for another. The zero-sum view. Consolidating suffering onto some people somehow frees up happiness for others.
That's a truly twisted justification for cultivating despair.
Right. Actively nurturing misery and rage. And adding to the horror are the lonely phenomena. Subtle, disturbing things happening around these individuals. Hallways seeming inexplicably dim, feeling unseen, small hands touch them. Doors mysteriously barred from inside. Dark figures glimpsed in passing cars.
So it's not just in their heads. There are external signs.
Exactly. Not just coincidence. These are the subtle supernatural signs that their isolation isn't just internal. It's being actively cultivated, amplified, weaponized by unseen forces, blurring reality itself. This is where that uncanny valley thing hits closest to home, I think. It takes loneliness, something we've all felt, right? And transforms it into this contagious, violent force, amplified by this unseen manipulation. Makes you wonder what forces might be preying on the most vulnerable people around us, and how easily that search for connection, for purpose, can be twisted into just profound suffering, destructive rage. It's really chilling.
Okay, so from radicalized individuals, let's turn to the shadowy world of espionage, where loyalty itself is this dangerous, shifting concept. Meet Agent Renko. He's GRU SV8, Russian intelligence, on this really difficult, morally messy undercover assignment.
GRU SV8. So, dealing with the unnatural side of Russian intelligence. Seems like it. He's described as a loyal son of Russia, served faithfully, but also extremely cynical, after years of lying, manipulating, and he's operating under what's literally called an unnatural death warrant.
Not metaphorical.
Nope. The source says he's constantly fighting off charnel hounds sent by the Tajbegsky Bratva, this criminal syndicate.
Charnel hounds, spectral attack dog.
Gruesome ones, yeah. Manifestations of a magical curse. He has to banish them every night with this dangerous ritual closing of the brooch.
Sounds stressful. What's his assignment?
This is where it gets heartbreaking. His mission involves this poorly funded Jewish orphanage in Kherson, Ukraine, a place of real innocence, vulnerability. Inside this orphanage, there's a color out of space.
The classic Lovecraft entity. Consuming indefinable alien presence. Drains life.
Exactly. It's draining the kids' vitality, leaving them sick, slowly dying. And the horrifying part, his own bosses, GRU SV8, know about it, and they are actively exploiting it.
Exploiting the color.
How?
Using the children.
Yes. Using the dying children as a resource, weaponizing the entity for hypergeometrical assets.
Hypergeometrical assets. That sounds terrifyingly vague and awful. Extracting unnatural energy, technology.
Yeah, something like that. From the entity, using the children. So Renko's conflict is agonizing. He has this genuine passion to save the kids. It's rooted in his own Jewish heritage, his upbringing in Ukraine. He connects with them.
But his duty.
Exactly. Clashes brutally with his duty to this corrupt, ruthless organization that sees these kids as totally expendable. The source says his ultimate desire is to betray GRU and defect to Delta Green, align with those actually fighting the unnatural, not exploiting it.
A defection story, then. But can you trust that, given his background?
That's the question, isn't it? Is that desire genuine? Or just another layer of deception? The final lie in a life built on lies. It highlights those deep moral gray areas, the crushing weight of conscience facing unimaginable horrors.
This really raises that fundamental question again, doesn't it? In a world with this much moral ambiguity, hidden cosmic threats, where even national loyalty gets tested by horrors, who do you trust?
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, how do you even figure out the truth when everyone, absolutely everyone, is operating under layers of deception? Motives hidden, alliances shifting constantly.
Right.
Renko's story is powerful. It shows how some horrors just transcend politics, national interests, forcing people into choices that redefine their whole sense of allegiance, morality. It's a chilling reminder that the enemy isn't always obvious, isn't always external. Sometimes the worst evils wear the mask of duty, patriotism. It's a deep dive into the uncanny nature of loyalty itself.
Absolutely. And all these individuals, these organizations, each one is like a piece of this larger, horrifying puzzle. They're all interconnected, forming the very essence of the labyrinth that this source material explores. So we've journeyed through these different horrors, right? Good intentions gone bad, life corrupted, faith twisted, loneliness weaponized, deceit everywhere. Now let's try and bring these threads together. Emphasize how interconnected, how insidious all these elements are. That's what makes the world of the Labyrinth so profoundly terrifying. The title itself, The Labyrinth, it's not just a cool name, it's a metaphor for the reality it describes. The material says these groups aren't static. They're not isolated. They change the more you use them.
Meaning, investigating them changes them, or reveals more.
Both, maybe. Interaction, awareness, it can morph their nature or reveal deeper connections, and it explicitly gives optional connections to other groups, meaning the horror is never contained, it spreads.
So encountering one group can lead you straight into another unexpectedly.
Exactly, blurring the lines. Who's an ally? Who's an enemy? It reveals this sprawling, insidious network under the surface of the normal world, like you could imagine the Sowers, right? Wanting successful pregnancies for their community. Through their lawyers, maybe a firm like DRJ that also works for New Life Fertility, they could end up interacting with New Life.
And accidentally help spread the new species without even knowing the cosmic horror involved.
Precisely. Or maybe a volunteer from the CMC looking for a missing child investigates a death at the Pronosodality compound, and they stumble onto the Loigor influence, something way deeper. It changes their whole search.
That web of connections. It means no single horror exists in a vacuum. They feed each other, create this pervasive system of evil.
Yeah, that interconnectedness. It suggests the real horror isn't just the individual monsters or cults. It's the sprawling, tangled web they exist in, this world of, like, inverted tyranny, where the problems are too entrenched, too interwoven to just root out easily.
A system of uncanny evil, far greater than the sum of its parts. A true labyrinth of dread.
Exactly, and that brings us right back to the nature of modern horror as the Labyrinth presents it. Remember the foreword quote, that this stuff is an antidote to the bullshit of our times, lets us look the world's ills in the eye and send them packing.
Right. The enemies being all the dumb, grating, miserable ills. Too entrenched, too useful to the right people for anyone to fix.
That nails the uncanny aspect we started with, is how technology, community, faith, wanting to be well, things we think are just good, how they become the conduits. Conduits for this deeper, pervasive horror that feels disturbingly familiar because it mirrors our own world's issues, just twisted into something monstrous.
Like Walt Kelly said in Pogo, we have met the enemy and he is us.
Exactly. The uncanny horror is that the enemy isn't just out there, it's also within the structures, the desires we hold dear.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, it's a truly chilling commentary, isn't it? On how easily the foundations of our society, privacy, trust, belief, hope, our basic needs, how easily they can be eroded, corrupted, even weaponized when hidden agendas and these unnatural forces get involved.
Yeah.
It really is a mirror held up to our world, reflecting back something deeply unsettling, undeniably uncanny. It forces us to face the idea that our problems aren't always external threats we can just identify and fight. Often, they bubble up from within our own systems, our own desires, and crucially, our failure to see the subtle corruption happening, that slow slide into the uncanny.
This stuff isn't just about monsters under the bed then. It's about the monsters that blend right into the daylight. The ones promising solutions, fulfilling needs, but delivering something far, far worse. They're the insidious threats manipulating our needs, our beliefs, turning them against us, transforming comfort into terror. So as we wrap up this journey through the labyrinth and its unsettling residents, we've seen a lot. Good intentions perverted, new life twisted into an alien breeding program, faith becoming a tool for horrific control, the search for healing leading to moral sickness, loneliness weaponized into violence, deceit making trust itself an uncanny illusion. Maybe the most terrifying thing about all of it is realizing that sometimes the very things that seem designed to unite us, heal us, give us purpose, the structures we build for good, they can be the very things that lead us deepest into that uncanny valley, where the line between salvation and damnation gets terrifyingly thin. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What good intentions are really hiding in the shadows of our own world. Thank you for joining us on the Uncanny Valley podcast.